Oh, this is too heavy for me. Okay. Oof, Jesus. Hello, beautiful bookworms. My name's Katarina and welcome to my channel. And today we have a special spooky sort of video because what I'm going to be doing is an in-depth sort of study of a spooky author, which first of all is to make you read more manga because you guys have to read manga. Manga is amazing. Second of all, he does things that are so very disturbing that yesterday I finished reading the last book that I was reading by him and I felt completely and that was so nice. I really enjoyed it. So I did not have a lot of makeup to actually do a creepy sort of thingy, and the books that I'm going to be talking with you about are way more creepy than anything that I could have done. So I just decided to get into the video. So what I'm doing here is sort of a October Halloween special sort of thing. I still don't know if this is going to come out on Halloween or in another date, but it's going to come out in October, that's for sure. And this is a special in-depth sort of dive deep into Junji Ito's work. So Junji Ito is a mangaka. He writes and draws his own manga series, and he has a very particular style of manga. He only does horror manga. So in order to know more about his work and to have some manga to recommend you for the Halloween series, also, I have done this last year and I've recommended some mangas for the Halloween series which weren't just from one author. There were more mangas. I'm going to try and remember to leave that link down below in order for you to get other recommendations. But Junji Ito is known as the master of horror, the Japanese master of manga horror. And for that reason, I decided that I was going to read all of his manga series, basically all of his horror manga series, because he has a sort of dark comedy manga series about his cat because he's very afraid of cats and now he has a cat. So that's fun. But the rest of his manga series, all of his horror series, including the ones that he's more known for as Gyo or Uzumaki, which means spiral, and you probably already heard about that somewhere if you like horror. I have read all of those, and what I actually found out is that he has two types of specific works. One type is collections of short stories, and they can be two of about the same characters or just short stories in between, so nothing connecting them. And then stories that are all together to actually form an entirety of a story. So a cohesive narrative that is made through stories. And I find that this is such an interesting thing of doing things because you have different chapters, different stories based on the same world and same things that happened. And for what I can gather, the only specific book that Junji Ito made with one story without being with chapters of short stories it's just one, as I was saying, and the rest of them are all chapters of short stories. So I group them in three sort of groups, we can say. So the first thing that I'm going to be talking about is his specific story without divisions, about the same characters and with the same structure. Then I'm going to be talking to you about the stories that are for the same narrative purpose but are divided in different stories, and sometimes characters come in and sometimes they go out. And then I'm going to talk to you about the short stories collections that are independent of everything that he's working on. And yeah, that's that, I guess. So get ready to be spooked because some of these themes are very hard. And first of all, if you cannot handle body horror, I suggest that you never in your life pick up Junji Ito because he is a masterful master of body horror and is one of the things that he does best and is one of the things that you always have prevalent in his works, in his covers, in his drawings and everything. So, and it's very descriptive and very gory. So I would recommend, if you can't handle body horror, to don't even look at some of the books that I'm going to present to you because the covers will have body horror. Not all of them, but for instance, the first one that I'm going to be talking about does have that, so be aware of that. And second of all, if you cannot handle gore, animals, or human modifications, amputations, suicides, everything that kind of makes you feel bad is in these books. So if you are a very sensitive person, I don't, and I'm going to say this again, I don't recommend that you pick up Junji Ito because I thoroughly enjoyed it, but I am a horror fan. I love dark, intense horror, I love body horror, and I love gore. And so for me, this is perfect. If you don't love this, no. Okay, no, I am saying this right now because I don't want to traumatize anyone, and it's possible. Although they are very fun graphic novels in a way because there's also some social and political criticism there somehow, and the stories are so messed up that sometimes you'll laugh and you're like, this is not possible. They are very charged with intense and sort of unease feelings, so if that's not for you, don't read this and don't watch this video. And now let's get into it, starting with the one that is always a cohesive story. So the first one that I want to talk about, as I said, is Junji Ito's cohesive, sort of continuous story, and that is Gyo. And I have this divided in 2 volumes. As I said, this is very disturbing. This is a person. I'm not going to tell you how she ended up like that, but this is a person. And this is a fish with legs. I know, right? It's not good already. But as I said, there's a new volume of this, which comprises the 2 volumes, and is way prettier than this one. Is hardback, is sort of black and grayish sort of thing. It's beautiful, but these are my boyfriend's copies, and so they're very, very old, and these are the ones that he had, so I don't even know if this printer still prints. Editor's choice, I don't know, but whatever. So Gyo is basically a very strange story that is not very hard to understand. I'm going to change the covers because that one upsets me more. But as I was saying, it's not very hard to understand. It's the story of this young couple that goes to spend vacations on a coast in Japan, and they basically start to feel this horrifying putrid smell, and one day they just find out that fish with sort of insect legs are coming out of the sea and are trying to attack humans for some reason. And they smell awful, like putrid, like terribly. And it's basically their story trying to get away from them and trying to figure out what happens in the world and how this is happening. And I have to tell you, this does not have an ending per se, although it does have an ending. It's sort of an open thing, and it's sort of a dystopian kind of world, but it's also a very social, sort of political statement, since in this story, it is known that the things that are happening have to do with something that happened in the World War and something that was thrown into the sea in that war. So obviously it has a criticism to chemical weapons and biological weapons, and I feel like that is Junji Ito's way of saying this was not right, and I'm going to write a horror story about this. But again, don't quote me on that because I've never met with the man and I've never interviewed him, but this is my view on the subject. Of course, this is hilarious because you have a shark coming out with little insect legs from the sea and like trying to eat people. Of course, it's stupid. It's not going to happen, I hope. It's about mutations. It's silly, but at the same time, it is very creepy because with the development of armory industry and everything that the countries do to each other, one day we could have these mutations. I mean, think Chernobyl. Think people were already mutated, so why not fish coming out of the water with insect legs to kill you? I mean, I don't want to tell you anything else about this, but this was a great one. I loved it, and it's a narrative that is cohesive, coherent, and that goes all the way up until the open ending that you have and you didn't know you needed, but you did need it, because I finished this and I was thinking, well, shit, now how is this going to be resolved? And it was very interesting because you could imagine how it was going to be resolved, but you can imagine that society will turn this around, because as with any cataclysmic event, there are immune people and there are non-immune people. So yeah, it's fun. I enjoyed it. Next, I've got a shorter one to talk to you about, and that is Dissolving Classroom, which, I mean, it's very small compared to the other two, although they are not very big as well. And this one, I mean, the aesthetic of this, you have two kids and all around people dissolving all around them and in the back as well. And this one is very fun. This one is sort of, it's not very cohesive, but it has a beginning, a middle, sort of, and an ending for the story. And this is basically the story of these two brothers. And this sister is sort of a creepy devil's child, and the brother is a Satan lover. And basically every time he apologizes to anyone, that person will start having their brain coming out of their eyes and nose and mouth, and they will dissolve. There's a reason for this. I cannot tell you, because this is very small and I would spoil you. And there's an ending that I was like, what the fuck is going on with this ending? Which is basically my reaction to all of Junji Ito's work, is what the fuck is wrong with all of this? I love it. It's that. This one is very, very funny, although the child here, this girl, she's very, very creepy. You can see it. The brother is like, whatever, which mainly that's why it's so creepy when he loses it. But the girl is just so fucking creepy. And I have a theory, but this is just me, that the apologizing thing that people start dissolving, it's because, I don't know if you ever heard the saying, in Portuguese you say something like, apologies are not asked for, like you shouldn't apologize, you should try to avoid having to apologize. In the way that what we want to say is that your actions have meaning, so you shouldn't do stuff that will lead you to have to apologize for them after. And I think that, but this is again my interpretation, but I think that this is sort of a funny, okay, way of saying that apologies can be more harmful than actually the thing that you did or did not do in this case. And this is so very funny. There are short stories all around with characters that we don't know and we don't care, they're very secondary. And then there's a character that pops up in the middle of some of the stories, but this is not as cohesive as Gyo. Gyo is a very straightforward narrative. This one is short stories about the same thing that then culminate in an ending, which is how Junji Ito normally does things. So yeah, this one is very fun. And if you're looking for a very small read for Halloween this year, the next one, spooky season, this is the thing, because this is so, I found this so funny, but at the same time so strange and so fucked up. I mean, do I need to tell you more? The next one that I want to talk to you about is the only one that I haven't read this month and that I already read last year, and that is Tomy, or Tomai, or however the fuck you pronounce this, because I will never know. Okay, and maybe I should have just gone to Google Translate and put Japanese and wrote this and clicked to hear how you pronounce this, but I don't know and I don't want to know because it's very strange. This one is the modern edition with the black and the gray and the green. Gyo has an edition like this and Uzumaki has an edition like this as well, but I don't have those two. And Tomy is very interesting because it won awards and was, I believe Junji Ito said, a journey of 24 years, I think. It wasn't the afterword, so I'm just going to check it. Yes, there was 24 years that he has been written Tomy, and Tomy is basically an amount of short stories that don't go anywhere but are creepy and sort of are about the same thing, but they don't have a cohesive narrative that says that you go from point A to point B to point C. That doesn't happen. It's just about the same character. It has some characters that pop up, but they're not always the same, and it's not supposed to be cohesive. So Tomy is a girl, and she is sort of like a devil's spawn in a way that she projects, like, every man that sees her wants to be with her, and because they can't have her or capture her beauty in any way, they kill her. They are driven insane by some psychedelic force and they kill her. And then she is reborn by a cell in her body. So every time that she's killed, she's reborn. It's sort of like, what is that myth called? The one that you take off a head and then two more grow in the same place. You know what I'm talking about? The Hydra, I think. The Hydra. You cut off one head and two more grow. It's the same thing with Tomy. And then she... normally you're only following one of her, but you don't know if that one is the one that was born from this act or from this act or from this act, or if it's the main one or if it's not. And it's very interesting because sometimes they also see each other, and it's very, very interesting. I really, really enjoy the concept of Tomy, but I think it's also sort of play. I mean, I don't think Junji Ito does this specifically because of these reasons, because I have never seen interviews with him, so I don't know, and I've never seen in his afterwards he's stating this, but this could be actually a social sort of criticism to mistreating of women, because there's absolutely no fucking reason, except the fact that she's like a devil spawn, because you don't die and then don't sprout another one of you from your head. But aside from that, there's no fucking reason for these men to actually go out of their way to kill her and try to possess her. There's no fucking reason for this. And I think that this could be a social criticism, again, because most of the time there is no fucking reason to actually violate, kill, and mistreat women or men or whatever, but in this specific case. So yeah, I really enjoy Tomy. I think it's a very, very big one. He spent 24 years writing these stories, so of course, but this won awards, and this is one of his collections that I think that you should pick up because it's very interesting. You can see all of his drawing styles, you can see all of the themes that he wants to approach, and you can read each short story for the short story itself, and then you don't have to read the rest of the book in the same day. You can use this for readathons or for short story collections. Although it is a little bit big, it's one of his biggest works, I believe. It's probably his biggest work, actually. And I really enjoyed it. I found it was very, very strange, very creepy, and I really liked the vibe that he gave it. And then to finish off this section of stories that are sort of a narrative, but they are short stories, I am going to talk to you about the most famous work of Junji Ito, and that is Uzumaki. These are the very old editions of Uzumaki. As I said, there's one edition of Uzumaki that is very similar to the Tomy edition that I just presented to you. It's black and gray and red, and it's very beautiful. This one, not so much, but the art is amazing, of course, because it's Junji Ito's art. So this is the first one, the second one, and then the third one. I really love how it's the same character that appears in all of them, because in this way, you know that the story will be continuous, although most of the things that happen, you don't know why they happened. And basically, Uzumaki is, I don't know if it won awards, but I do believe that it was nominated for the Eisner Award, which, if you don't know, it's a very, very important award in the community, in 2002, actually. And it said, a superb example of Japanese manga, Ito's execution of this tale is magnificent. He infuses the often frenetic layouts of manga with the leisurely pace of Poe, the organic grotesqueries of Lovecraft. So this bro here was compared to Poe and Lovecraft. You know what you have to do. You have to pick this up. If you like horror, you have to pick this up. But as I was saying, Uzumaki is a very messed up, very incredible, I loved it, story about this town that is cursed by the spiral, or Uzumaki, as it's said in Japanese. Look at me, I spoke Japanese. But that town slowly but surely starts to be cursed by spirals. So what happens is that we start with someone that gets addicted to the pattern of the spirals and wants to figure out what's going on with that, why the pattern is like that, what it means. And then people start dying, strange and paranormal things start happening, and you have an amount of collections of short stories following our main character, which I don't remember her name. Kirie Goshima, yeah, that's her name. We start following Kirie Goshima, which is our main character, as she slowly but surely finds out that something is very, very wrong with her little village by the sea, and nobody can get out. The people that get in never get out, and the people that are already in cannot escape, and they are basically doomed, and you don't know how this is going on. I am not going to tell you the ending, but this book does have an ending. It's not open, although sort of, but it's not. You can reach a conclusion. It goes from point A to B to C, although it doesn't go in a straight line. It goes in a spiral line. Did you like what I did there? But it's true. Most of the tales, although they're about the same thing, although they're about the same thing, the same town, the same people that live in the town, the same main character, you don't know how much time is going on between the beginning of the first one till the end. So this spiral is just spiraling out of control. Wow, these puns are terrible. Throughout the time, and you don't know how long it takes this city to actually be completely possessed or not by the spiral. And it's very interesting. I think people say it's one of his best works. I agree, although I really, really enjoyed some of his other works, but as a cohesive from one point to another story, I think that this one is great. And it could have, in the first one, it kind of looked like it was, but then in the next ones, it was just a paranormal sort of sci-fi-ish adventure. But in the first one, it kind of looked like it could have something to do with mental illness, since it starts with one person that is obsessively searching for this pattern and trying to understand what it means. And as you know, in obsessive compulsive disorder, sometimes there are some obsessions that we don't really understand, and we act upon them, and there's behaviors that we have to have, and yeah, and then we have some paranoid people, of course, with this happening. Everything that you see that could be a spiral happens, and I don't know, I thought the first part of Uzumaki was sort of an exploration of mental health, and then it just dived deep into the hell of the spirals and the paranormal things, and everything happens. And there's a thing, it's not really a spoiler, but there's a thing in these which are people that are starting to become snails, because the snails in their back have a spiral, and the snail people are just the grossest and cutest things that I've ever seen. And I know that I'm saying two things that are supposed to be completely independent, but they're not. They're just so cute. I love them so much, but they're also very slimy and gross, but they're just so cute. They're just people that are snails, so they have mouths and they have, it's just so cute. I mean, read this. This is very fucked up and twisted, but I will not say that this was funny. This was not funny at all, but it has some parts that I really, really enjoyed. So after this, I have 4 more books to show you, which I'm going to quickly, present to you, because, as I said, these are now short stories that don't have a lot of things to do with each other, and so they're just collections of short stories that I think you should read for readathons or for just having fun in Halloween. And I will start with Fragments of Horror by Junji, and this one has one of my favorite stories, which is very strange because it's a very strange and very stupid story, but I loved it. And it's about this dude, which is in the front cover. This looks like the screen from Munch, and basically this dude gets his head chopped off and he starts to walk like this, because if he lets go, his head will fall off. And he starts saying like, I can't hold this, my hands are shaking, and it's just so stupid, because I'm like, dude, if your head is cut off, you're not alive anymore. How the fuck are you doing that? How are you keeping your head in place with your hands? I don't know. This is just so very funny. This is one of the stories you can find here. I think that the stories here are the most funny. Horrifying, terrible, gory as shit, but the most funny for me. I really enjoy them. there's this one about a house, and there's this sort of woman that enjoys having sex with the walls because they are made from specific wood. I don't know, it's so very strange, but I laughed with this. It wasn't uncomfortable laughter, but it was laughter. So this is more like the dark comedy side of horror for me. And it's also very short. It's sort of like, it's one of the shortest stories collections. Oh, there was one that was very creepy. The last one in here, that shit was messed up. And it was very creepy. And I was like, okay. But the rest of them were just very funny, I think, if I remember correctly. This is very, very small. It's one of the smallest. Yeah, it's the smallest of the short story collections that I have of Junji, and I will progressively show you the others. Then we have the last one that I actually read, but I will show you in the middle of the others. These are selected stories that Junji himself found that will be great put together in a book, and it's called Shiver. It's a hardcover. It's beautiful. I love it. And this contains, as it said, many different stories that don't have anything to do with each other, and a bonus story in the end about one of the characters of one of the stories. It's very fun. It is called Shiver because it's the name of one of the short stories about people that start getting very, very cold, and these holes start appearing on their body, and they feel like they are cold because the wind passing through the holes in their bodies makes them cold, which is so very strange, so very fucked up. In this one, though, the last story of this one made me feel incredibly uncomfortable because it was about grease and oily things, and Junji sort of transmitted it so well that I was feeling completely dirty and filled with oil, and I was just like, I had to wash my hands 3 times after finishing this, and I was still feeling gross. And the book is not gross, the book is a book, and it actually smells very good. But the story was so gross. And I think it was the only time I said, this is so gross. And I was just like, But the other stories were very interesting, and I really enjoyed them. Particularly, I enjoyed a story about your face appearing as a balloon in the sky with a noose to actually hang you. And that's all that I'm going to say. You should read this because that story is incredible. Then another one of these short story collections, and this one was not created by him, so it's not selected by him to be here, but these are here. Oh, I forgot to say, in Shiver, you have a lot of afterwords by Junji, so he explaining why he chose those particular stories and why he created them, which I also found very funny. Then in this one you have Smashed, and this one is very, very orangey, very creepy. This one, basically, you have 13 chilling nightmares presented by the master of horror. It's what it says in the back. And that's what you have. You have 13 non-related at all stories presented by Junji Ito. And it goes from stories of bats that, people that give their blood to bats in order for them to give to other people, someone that has a song stuck in their head and the song never comes out and it kind of gets into a neurological problem. People that if they eat something in particularly are smashed by an invisible force, which that story was so great. I was imagining me like getting some honey, like I'm going to eat a toast with honey, and I picked up the toast and it's very good, smash, and you would die. And it was so funny. It's not funny at all, but it was very funny. You can see how I'm dark and twisted inside, can't you? When I say that these things are funny. But this one is genius. I mean, I am just going to show you some of the artwork that Junji Ito has and try not to spoil you for anything. Look at this. This is amazing. And I have to figure out if I can see... Oh, this one. Yeah. This is amazing. He has such a great artwork. This one. I'm going to show you this one because this is a double page work. The detail in everything, even their shadows in the back, it's gorgeous. The way that people feel like they're very sick. Oh, this kitten from hell. awesome. I love this. Oh, and there's a story. That's the story about this dude. This dude has a library and he gets obsessed with knowing by heart each and every one of his books. And that story, I felt that. I was like, this is a criticism against me reading too many books. Well, I'm still gonna do it, but it was just so cool. I think that Junji Ito explores. Ooh, I have to show you this. If you hate horror, look away for 5 seconds. Okay, you can come back. As I was saying, Junji Ito is a master of actually approaching how an obsession or a paranoia or something can be transformed into horror, even if it's such the most normal thing. Some of his stories are very, very paranormal, have demons, have creatures from hell, and that's normal. But some of his stories are absolutely normal, and you are the monster because you are so obsessed and so paranoid about a specific thing that you basically destroy your life. And I think that that's a genius way of making people feel uncomfortable, because you think like, that could be me. When the dude of the library goes completely fucking insane, I'm not going to tell you why, but when the dude was going insane, I was like, that could be me. And that's very creepy. I should stop reading. I'm not going to do such a thing. But you see, you can understand the motivations and deep of the characters, and you feel very, very about it. The last one that I want to talk to you about is Frankenstein by Junji Ito, and this, as the name tells, is a short story collection, but the first story that goes through 100 and something pages of this is Frankenstein's story. So Junji Ito grabs Mary Shelley's Frankenstein and he does the artwork and he does the story, and look at this. This is supposed to be Frankenstein's monster. This is supposed to be Frankenstein, and look at this perfection. I have never seen Frankenstein drawn in such a beautiful way. This is actually how I imagine him to be. And his monster. I have a thing that I want to show you of the creation of the monster. Here you go. This is Frankenstein monster. Isn't this absolutely horrid and amazing? Because I think it is, and it's just so great. Then you have a lot of short stories. Most of them actually complete themselves. These are short stories that actually go hand in hand together. So you have one, then you have another, and it's about the same thing, and then you have another that doesn't have anything to do with anything, and then you have another that has to do with the other thing, but they actually complete each other. And you have a bonus story in here, which is about the family dog, and it says, thrilled to the adventures of Non Ito, an adorable Maltese. And she very mean, but she's so cute. And you have Junji Ito portrayed as he goes and tries to speak with the dog, and it's just very, very funny. Let me see if I can show you the dog. I will show you some artwork in the meantime, because I think that his artwork is just so gorgeous. Oh, I want to show you the dog. There, look at the dog. He's always barking, and he's just so cute. And this is Junji Ito, supposedly. And it's just so much fun. I love this one. I think this one was pretty great. So in total, which of these were my favorites, to just stop with this video because it's so long. So my favorites of the stories, the cohesive stories, was of course Uzumaki. I think it's brilliant, I think it's amazing, and because it might have something to do with mental health, which is my field because I'm in psychology, and it has snail people. I just recently discovered that snail people are my favorite shit in the entire world, although they're very creepy, but they're very cute. Then, from the collections of short stories, I loved many short stories from many different collections, but a collection that I loved in its entirety has to be maybe Frankenstein. If you don't know Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, Junji Ito's approach is one of the greatest that I've ever seen, although it changes some of the things because it doesn't have particular space in the manga to approach them. And I think that because it has 6 stories that are cohesive and about a specific thing, And then it has the dog bonus of the thing. It's a great one. Although I really love Smash. Smash had some of the stories that I laugh most about. Although Fragments of Horror was the most funny for me. Because of its thing, you know, I don't know how to explain. I love all of these, but Uzumaki is for sure, if you haven't read it, you have to. The other ones I would recommend, specifically if you just want to read a scary short story and be done with it. You can pick up one of the books of short stories and just sometimes read one throughout the month, or read 2 or 3 throughout the month of October. I don't know, something like that. So that's going to be all for this video. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. If you enjoyed it, leave a like or subscribe. Tell me if you know Junji Ito's work, if you enjoyed this video, if you want to know more of his books, if you want to read any of these that I showed you, and if you want more details about one of these. I can give you in the comments, or I can DM you somewhere and give you more details. I just don't want to spoil people, but be very sure that you know the trigger warnings and what you're getting yourself into, because it's a little bit heavy, but I found it funny as well. So that's going to be all for today, and happy readings to you. Oh.